In this video, let's talk about 15 weird things the Swedes do. I've been living in Sweden for 9 years now, and it's always fascinating to notice things that are completely different from what I'm used to. So today I will cover everything from their strange approach to education to their social customs. So buckle up and let's do this. First, let's dive into something that totally surprised me when I first moved to Sweden. And this is the grading system in the first years of primary education. My son was enrolled in a Swedish school system, and it was exciting for me to see how he would adapt coming from Tanzania. Then end of term comes, we had development talk with his mentor. Now, if you're someone who's been through the normal school system, you know that grades are usually a big deal. So I was expecting the usual A's, B's, you know the drill. But in Sweden, things work a bit differently. A child will start to get the usual grades when they go to class 6. So from class 1 to class 5, nothing. You have no way of knowing if he's getting A's or not. This was very frustrating. But eventually, I started to envy my son. I wished I went through the same education system. No stress about returning home a good report with straight A's until grade 6. Imagine that. Isn't that perfect? I mean, look at the Swedes. They came up with all these cool discoveries, like the Volvo, IKEA, and of course, Zlatan. They must be doing something right, you know. But that's not the only odd thing in the Swedish education system. It gets even more interesting. In Sweden, you actually get paid to go to school. Yes, that's right. I personally experienced this for the first time when I did the Swedish language course. Imagine, I was just doing the Swedish language course. On top of that, you can take a student loan, which is very low interest. And note that you will get paid as a student from high school education and until you reach 47 years old. Next, let's talk about something that's a bit more fun. When you live in Sweden, you will be introduced to special days of celebrating food. I love this because I'm a foodie. For example, on March 25th is Waffles Day, and September 7th is the sticky chocolate cake day, the famous kladdkaka. If you're in Sweden, you must try kladdkaka. It's the best. These days come with special deals at grocery stores and cafes. And if your employer is nice, mine happened to be that, you get to celebrate this day at work too. I have actually tasted my first semla at work on semla-dagen. Semla is one of those weird Swedish inventions. It's like a burger made of sweet buns, and the filling is whipped cream. It never occurred to me that a cream burger will be delicious. Choosing flour in Sweden is an adventure that comes with experience. First time I needed to buy wheat flour in a grocery store, I was so confused. I mean, it's like 1,000 choices of flours to choose from. I just missed back home where you find 2 types of flours, white and whole wheat. Actually, growing up, it was just one flour, the white flour. I think you really have to live here for a while to know which flour will suit your needs. Everyone is a feminist, women and men alike. Women are raised to be fiercely independent, and men are raised to see women as their equal. Nothing wrong with that. However, as a result, most Swedish men are not used to opening a door for a lady, pick the check on a date, or helping ladies lifting heavy things, because Swedish women will actually snap when a man does this for them. I can do this myself. Well, maybe they don't sound angry like that. Jag klarar den här, tack. I will never forget this. One day at work with my previous employer, I had to carry heavy tables in heels during a Christmas party. I was part of the organizing committee, because my Swedish female colleague refused help offered by the guys. Don't get me wrong, I am a feminist at heart, and I was raised very feminist. I'm all for gender equality and women power. However, I am still in the view that some things should be left to men. There's something lovely and nice about a man holding a door for you, offering to pick up the check on a date, propose to marry you, or carry the heavy stuff. Just a thought. Alright, this one was another cultural shock for me. If you are invited to a barbecue in Sweden expect to bring your own food and your own grill. Wait, it gets better. When it's time to eat, you will just eat your own stuff. No sharing. I think the Swedes have really missed the point of grilling together. I'm used, at my home country, to when grilling with friends or neighbors, everyone chips in. In the end, you eat the delicious food together. This is what barbecue is all about. When Swedes make appointments or plan for vacations, they will talk in weeks. They will say that I will be back from vacation week 34, or the schools will be open week 38. The only way I can cope with this is to change my calendar in my phone to display in weeks. Just a little tip. If you want to sound like the Swedes, say something like, my grandma is coming to visit me week 40. You will nail it. Did you know, just like the American dream exists, there is also a Swedish dream? As a proper Swede, your main goals in life should be to get a house, villa, a Volvo, and a dog, Vove. You don't really need to strive to become the richest or the best in something. These three things are modest and you will live a happy life. And mind you, the house doesn't have to be a big house. Just a small wooden one somewhere in the forest will do the job. And the Volvo is the ultimate Swedish pride when it comes to cars, because it's the car everyone can drive. Teachers, plumbers, architects, even royals alike. It's supposed to be classless and no one looks overdressed or underdressed in a Volvo. At least not in Sweden. Note that it's not just any Volvo if you want to live the Swedish dream. It's the V70 or the V90. I actually love Volvos. The problem is the model I love is not very lagom. The XC90 is just perfect. That's my dream car. And if you want your Swedish neighbors not to invite you again for fika, you should mention that Volvo nowadays is owned by a Chinese company. Swedes try not to think about that too much. They would rather want their car brands to be purely Swedish. As for a dog, get a proper dog. You know, those big ones. And while at it, give it a Swedish name. Molly or Lode. I think I have somehow ticked one of the boxes. Right now, I just need my Volvo and a villa, but not in the forest, sorry. I just need this humongous villa, and this is why I still don't have one. Where I come from, we never talk about the weather. I mean, think about it. The weather is the same throughout the year. So it's just too boring for anyone to care. But here in Sweden, it's quite exciting to talk about the weather. And it's the best conversation starter. If you're new and you're around Swedes, and probably you do not know what to talk about, just talk about the weather. I found myself talking about the weather quite a lot these days. Even where I work with a team that is in India. And during our daily calls, team calls, I realized that I've made them also talk about the weather. My bad. This one is my favorite. If it's your birthday, chances are you can expect a cake at 6 a.m. in the morning, along with gifts and singing in bed. I really love this tradition and I always look forward to do it to my kids and to my husband. I also look forward to receive it back when it's my birthday. I think it's such a lovely gesture, even though you get to be woken up at super early. It's worth it. You can only buy booze in government-owned store called Systembolaget. Where I come from, in Tanzania, you can buy alcohol anywhere, from the grocery stores to the corner store near you. This means you have access to booze 24/7. But Systembolaget has special opening hours. In weekdays, it opens only between 10 to 7 p.m. Saturdays, this store would open between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's closed on Sundays and public holidays. Imagine that. So if you miss that window, then you are basically screwed. The Swedes love to glorify everything that's happening first in that year. The first harvest of fresh potatoes in the summer. These potatoes, when they're sold in the supermarket, they will cost an arm and a leg. It will be like 10 times the price of normal potatoes, just because they're the first harvest. I've also seen in social media people posting things like the first barbecue of the year, the first cold dip. I find this kind of cute, actually, because you romanticize your life, and this is beautiful, I think. In Sweden, your colleagues are not your friends. Do not expect that. The relationship ends after work hours. I was so shocked one day. I bumped into a colleague from my former job, and this was my first job in Sweden, so I was adjusting a lot. And I bumped into her outside the supermarket, and of course I was like, oh, I know her, and I tried to make eye contact and say hi. She completely ignored me, and of course I was in shock. I was wondering, did I do or say something wrong at some point and offended her? Mind you, this was one of those colleagues that you actually chit-chat during lunch or coffee machine. It's not those nerd ones that you hardly talk to. It was someone that I actually talked to a lot. So you can imagine my shock. And I went home that day and explained this to my husband. And he laughed so much and said, welcome to Sweden. Eventually, I got to learn that, well, it wasn't personal. It's just how it is. The Swedes do not like small talks. Just because we can be chatty at a work environment, it doesn't mean that when I meet her somewhere else, we can still be chatty. When we are colleagues, we are chatty, but outside that, no. Let me clarify this. There are some who actually don't do this. So one thing about the Swedes is that they're not very open to make new friends. They would rather stick with these friends they met since daycare or primary school, even when they have nothing in common. I personally think Swedes are really missing out on a great opportunity to meet someone really nice during your adulthood that could actually end up being an amazing friend. And you could meet this person anywhere. I have made many great friends over a lifetime at work. And to be honest, I have not so much in common anymore with people I went to daycare or primary school with. That means I don't have to be friends with them. The F word is used very often, and it's quite normal in Sweden. I still cringe a little when I hear it. I mean, fy fan. Last but not least, lördagsgodis. Did you know the Swedish kids are allowed to eat sweets only Saturdays? Apparently, this tradition was the brainchild of a Swedish dentist who conducted experiments in the 1940s and 50s to prove it was better for your teeth if you consumed your entire weekly allowance of sugar in one go, rather than small amounts every day. This is why the Swedes decided to stick to this tradition of lördagsgodis. I actually think it's kind of cool because, kids look forward to the day of eating sweets instead of eating the sweets every day. So we should all copy this tradition. If you like this video, you should definitely check out my video right here on living in Sweden, unexpected life lessons I have learned so far. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. It will really help my channel to grow. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Hej då!